without much latency and with the efficient bandwidth utilization, the energy reduction, or you can say the cost reduction, and so on. Okay, so I'll just give you some idea about the central office and some idea about this the user end, that is at the ONU side. Okay, so to be more precise, if I just say why this energy efficiency is in much concern, why it is important. So basically, if we see the current case, then the number of applications or the number of devices, number of internet of things are increasing day by day, and that is not linearly, that is, you can say, the exponentially. Okay, as there is the development of smart cities, so there must be some smart devices and all. So the energy consumption of the ICT infrastructure, you can say the information and communication technology infrastructure, or this optical network architecture, is increasing day by day. Okay, and as we are having the limited energy resources on our mother earth, so basically what will happen when the energy demand is increasing day by day? So there must be a day on which we will not have the sufficient energy resources to fulfill the energy demand. Okay, or as the energy is being consumed, there must be the emission of the hazardous gases, that may be the carbon dioxide or other gases, and that are also contributing to the global warming. So we need to protect our friendly environment also. Okay, so in this direction, basically what we can do, so we can use the renewable energy resources as much as possible, but as you know, the energy resources are not omnipresent. Okay, there may be case the renewable energy may be available abundantly at some place, and at another place it may not be available. Okay, so what is the most important, that is to develop the architectures or protocols or equipments that consumes low energy and provide the energy saving capability, and we can say save our environment. Okay, so basically I'll be focusing in this direction. Okay, so that's why the energy efficiency in the optical access network, or you can say in the ICT infrastructure, is very much important. Okay, to serve or to survive in the long run. Okay, so there are some important factors of the ICT infrastructure. So how we can design the efficient ICT? So basically for that we have several dimensions or factors. So by remote monitoring, so let's say we are installing the servers in the remote areas where there may be the availability of the renewable energy resources. Okay, and by accessing them we can definitely reduce the energy, or by harnessing the renewable energy, if it is available then it is fine to use the renewable energy. Yes, and proper dimensioning and planning of the network, proper efficient network processing, efficient electronic equipment, that is basically by designing or utilizing the electronic equipments that are energy efficient. And then there is one another factor, that is by efficiently designing the access network so that it will not consume too much of energy, or that will optimize whatever the energy resources are available to us. Okay, so now let me just give you some idea about the access network. So optical access network is nothing but the network architecture which transmits the data on the optical signal through the optical fiber, and that connect or serve to the last user. And the bandwidth available, or you can say the data transmission, can be held at several gbps. Okay, so nowadays if you are seeing the data transmission at 10 gbps, 20 gbps, or 40 Gbps is much common. Okay, so when I talk about the access network, so the data can be provided to the end user in two ways. So one is the TDM pump, that is the time division multiplexed passive optical network. So why it is called as the passive optical network? As in the mid of the path, all the components that are used are passive. So we are not using any active component. Okay, active component may be at the central office or at the end user side, but in the mid path, all the components are passive. Okay, so when we are connecting the optical splitter, then we are simply distributing this signal that is coming from, or that is transmitted from this optical line terminal, or you can say the central office, to all its output ports. Okay, so let's say this splitter is of 1 cross 32. So this signal will be divided into 32 ports. Okay, so each user, that is 32 users, can access this data. So for the downstream there is no problem. Okay, and when user want to transmit the data that is in this upstream direction, then basically there must be some controlling mechanism, that is TDMA. So at some particular time instant, a particular user will get the control and will transmit the data. Okay, so that there may not be the collision. Okay, so this TDM pawn is very efficient if we talk about the energy resource utilization or available resource utilization. Okay, and it has a good feature that only one transmitter can serve all the users. Okay, so let's say if we are having only one transmitter and that is transmitting the wavelength lambda 1, so what will happen from here? So lambda 1 will be distributed at 32 parts. So sorry, lambda 1, so all the 32 users are accessing this lambda 1. Okay, so only one transmitter is required, and this power splitter is also the cost efficient. Okay, so this TDM pawn is cost efficient, OPEX efficient, you can say, or the CAPEX efficient. But there are certain challenges. Okay, as this data is divided into multiple parts. Okay, so if this splitting ratio is increasing, then basically the insertion loss of this optical combiner, or you can say the splitter, is also increasing. Okay, and that is defined by approximately 3.5 log of 2 n dB. Okay, so whenever the number of ports are increasing, the insertion loss is increasing. So the power budget fulfillment or power budget matching will be the challenging issue. So the power received at a particular user will be less than the receiver sensitivity. So this receiver may not detect the signal properly. Okay, and this TDM pawn is less secure, as basically lambda 1 is transmitted. Let's say it is intended only for user 1 and user 2. Okay, however, this lambda 1 can be accessed by any of the user available in the network, that is from all 32 users, whether it is intended or not. So basically the data is shared with all the users, so it is less secure. Okay, and the effective data rates are lower in this case. So if we just say about the Shannon's channel capacity theorem, that is B log of 2 1 plus SYN. So as the data is distributed by this power splitter, or you can say the optical splitter, so the signal to noise ratio at the receiver side is not good, it is degraded. Okay, so as this signal to noise ratio is decreasing, so the effective channel capacity is also increasing. Okay, so there is the limitation on the bandwidth side also, or the channel capacity. So then there is the development of the WDM PON, that is the wavelength division multiplexed passive optical network. So what happens in this WDM PON? So multiple wavelengths are transmitted. First, these are combined by the WDM multiplexer, and then transmitted into the fiber. And then at the remote node, earlier we are having this power splitter, but now we are having this AWG or WDM demux kind of thing. So basically it is distributed to the number of users. Okay, so what is happening in this case, let's say for ONU1, and let's say it is ONU 8. Okay, this is 1 cross 8 WDM demux. So for each ONU, a separate wavelength is transmitted. So basically the number of transmitters required for this WDM PON is dependent on the number of users available in the network. Okay, so if there are 8 users, then 8 transmitters are required. Okay, so it is basically creating the high cost. Okay, and this WDM demux or mux or this AWG is also costly. So basically there are certain challenges, that is the high cost. And as let's say we are transmitting from here lambda 1, lambda 2 up to lambda 8 wavelengths. Okay, so now lambda 1 will come here and lambda 8 will come here, lambda 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. Okay, so each user is receiving only one wavelength. Okay, so now what happens if this lambda 1 failed due to some reason? Then basically this user 1 will not receive any data. Okay, so it is not flexible, you can say. What does that I mean in this title flexible? So that is there any way then we can change or switch the wavelength path, we can route in order to get the reliability or resiliency? Okay, but there are certain advantages also. So as the separate or dedicated wavelength is transmitted for each user, so the effective data rate is very good, much larger. And as lambda 1 can be accessed by user 1 only, lambda 2 can be accessed by user 2 only, and so on. So it is very secured. Okay, but to reduce the cost, as the cost and flexibility are the challenging issues for this, so there may be the better option that hybrid WDM TDM PON can be used. Okay, so in this case there must be two remote node. Let's say it is remote node 1 and it is remote node 2. Okay, so at remote node we can use the WDM topology or TDM topology any. Okay, so let's say in this particular case we are using the here WDM, so that's why we are using this arrayed waveguide grating for the multiplexing the signals. Okay, and let's say so from here two 4 wavelengths are transmitted, lambda 1 to lambda 4. So here lambda 1 will come, lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4. Now to utilize this lambda 1 effectively, so there is another component, that is power splitter. Okay, so now it is splitting the same wavelength to multiple users. Okay, so we can access or we can distribute this lambda 1 up to 32 or whatever the number of users depending on the power budget matching condition. Okay, so we can say the lambda 1 is not used for a single user, but rather in this particular case it is serving 32 users. Okay, so if I talk about the features, so the insertion loss for this hybrid PON is moderate, as we are not using the power splitter here, and the loss of this AWG is much lesser than this power splitter. So the insertion loss is moderate, security is moderate, as lambda 1 is not accessible to all the users, rather only this group. Okay, so it is security is moderate, flexibility is also partial, resource sharing is partial. Okay, as this lambda 1 cannot be accessed by all the users available in the network, but by this particular group. So resource sharing is partial. The cost is also partial, as only the 4 resources are serving the number of users, that is 132. Okay, and the wavelength requirement, that is also partial, or you can say the moderate. Okay, as if we are using the pure WDM, then we have to use the 132 wavelengths, and if we are using pure TDM, then only one wavelength is required. So basically, by this hybrid combination, the number of wavelengths are also moderate. Okay. So basically, let's say this is the two remote node architecture. Okay, so we are having remote node 1 and remote node 2. So in this case, I've given the example of AWG and then power splitter. Okay, but it should not be the case only. So we can use the AWG at both the place, we can use the power splitter at both the place, or we can also have the structure that may have the power splitter at this remote node 1 and AWG at this remote node 2. Okay, so to get it in a better way, just consider the different case, that is the 1 cross m of the splitting ratio of this remote node 1 and 1 cross n the splitting ratio of remote node 2. So I've considered the different value of this m and n. Okay, so m and n are 8, 4, 16, 4 as given in this table. So the total number of supported ONUs are 32, 64, 128 and 256. Okay, and the cost of the splitter and AWG is also given, that is 1 cross 4, 1 cross 8, 1 cross 4, 1 cross 8 and so on. So it is given here. So as you can clearly see, the cost of this splitter is lesser than the cost of this AWG. Okay, so if we are just considering the cost at the remote node, that is the cost of this structure, and basically definitely the TDM pure TDM multiplexing is cheaper and pure WDM technology is costlier. Okay, so from the cost point of view, the TDM multiplexing is a better option. Okay, and but at the same time, if we just see the power budget condition. Okay, so we have the same number of users, that is 8, 4, 16, 4, 16, 8 and 32, 8. So for different multiplexing techniques, and let's say the transmission length is 20 kilometer, 40 kilometer and 60 kilometer. Okay, so from here you can clearly observe that this pure TDM topology required the higher power budget, and that may not be achieved easily. Okay, and if we are migrating to this TDM WDM and then WDM TDM and then WDM WDM, then the required power budget is decreasing. Okay, you can see the any case. Okay, so from the power budget point of view, the pure WDM, that is WDM PON technology may be the better option. Okay, and it is the number of required wavelengths. So as I've already told that the pure TDM requires only one wavelength, and pure WDM requires the number of the wavelengths that is equivalent to the number of users. That is for this particular case 32 cross 8, for this particular case 8 cross 4. Okay, so now which multiplexing technology can be used? So depending on the network conditions, let's say we are transmitting, we can transmit the data at 1 Gbps, 2.5 or at 10 Gbps. Okay, so depending on the number of users also, so this is the case where the better multiplexing technology is given. So let's say if in the network the transmission length is only 20 kilometer and the users are 32, then basically this pure TDM technology can be used, and for this only one wavelength is required. This number is written in bracket that denotes the number of users. Okay, and if I see this case, so let's say we are transmitting the data at 10 Gbps. Okay, and the fiber length is 20 kilometer. In this case also we can use this TDM topology, because for this the power budget matching is not a big problem. Okay, but if the fiber length is increased and the number of users is also increased, as the number of users increase, the splitting ratio is increasing and the insertion loss is decreasing, and the channel loss is also increasing due to this. So basically the power budget in this case seems to be difficult if we are using this TDM. So that's why we can migrate on this WDM PON technology. Okay, so for this particular case, we have to use only this WDM PON technology. Otherwise, we may not have the power budget matching until unless we are using some kind of amplifiers. Okay, so I'm just skipping this. Yeah, so basically, until now we have just have the idea about the hybrid WDM TDM PON architectures. So now, is there any architecture that can provide the energy efficient and bandwidth scalable services? So yeah, so basically in this case we have proposed one architecture. So let me just come on this case. So at this AWG, that is 1 cross M cross 1 AWG. So it is multiplexing the M number of wavelengths, okay, then transmitting into the channel. And then at the remote node, we are demultiplexing it into the N ports. And then it is, you can say, the remote node 2, where a particular signal is again distributed into the number of K users. Okay. So to provide the dual rate, or you can say the bandwidth scalability, so what I have done, so the number of ports of this central office AWG, that is M, that is twice as compared to this AWG, remote node AWG. Okay, so to be more precise, let me come on this. So at central office, we have used 8 cross 1 AWG, and at remote node, we have used 1 cross 4 AWG. Okay, so 8 transmitters are transmitting the data, and out of which 4 transmitters, that are written in this black one, that are transmitted at 193.135 and 7 and modulated at 10 Gbps, and the red ones 193.9, 194.135 are modulated at 1 Gbps. Okay, so now this AWG, so just forget about these interlevers, I'll discuss it later. So these AWG, this AWG will multiplex all these signals. Okay, so here in this fiber, the stream of 8 wavelengths will come. Now at remote node, what is happening? So this remote node AWG will demultiplex all these signals. Okay, so 193.1 will come here, 193.3, 193.5, 193.7. So there is one cyclic property of AWG. Okay, so due to this cyclic property, so now these wavelengths will start repeating the ports of this AWG. So 193.9 will come here, 194.1, 194.3, and 194.5. Okay, so you can clearly see, so each port is receiving two wavelengths. Okay, so out of which one is modulated at 10 Gbps and another is modulated at 1 Gbps. Okay, so let's say this particular optical distribution network, or the ONU that is residing this ODN, is not having much traffic load, and that is requiring only 1 Gbps. Okay, so then this 193.1 TRX can be turned off and it can be turned on. Okay, and if it is demanding higher data rates, then basically what can be done? So this 193.1 and 193.9, both the transmitters can be turned on. Okay, so this architecture may receive or may have up to 11 Gbps. Okay, and now let's say there is one case when the data is transmitted on this 193.9. Okay, and at some particular time instant, this TRX 193.9 is failed. Okay, so conventionally we may not able to transmit the data to the user, and you can just imagine, if the data transmission is stopped for few minutes, then this word cannot tolerate. Okay, so if you just see the case of 15 to 20 days back, at some particular night, I think the WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram all stopped. Okay, and people are searching again and again whether it is working, it is working, it is working. So we cannot tolerate the failure. Okay, so if this transmitter is failed, then immediately this 193.1 transmitter can be turned on instantly. Okay, so that's why we can add the reliability or resilience in the network against the transmitter failure. Okay, so this is one of the feature of this architecture. And let's say at some particular time instant we want to broadcast the data. Okay, then what can be done? So let's say we want to broadcast the data at 1 Gbps. Okay, so earlier we're transmitting 193.9 terahertz wavelength. Okay, so now if so basically the role of this interleaver is to pass all the odd multiple of 100 gigahertz wavelengths in this direction and even multiple in this direction, similarly odd in this direction and even in this direction. Okay, so if I just tune this from 193.9 to 194, then this wavelength will come towards this side, not on this side. Okay, so it will come here. Now there is one 2 cross 4 power splitter, so this 194 wavelength will come at its output ports. So here 194 terahertz wavelength can be accessed by ODN1, ODN2 and all other ODNs. Okay, so there is no requirement to transmit the same data from the different transmitters at the OLT. Rather, we can broadcast the data. So this architecture is also supporting the broadcasting, and the broadcasting can be done at 1 Gbps or at 10 Gbps. So suppose we want to broadcast the data at 10 Gbps, then what we'll do, we'll transmit the wavelength that is 193.2 terahertz. Okay, so it will come here in this way and will reach to the all the audience. Okay, and can we allocate the wavelengths dynamically? Yeah, so this feature is also available in this architecture. So earlier, this remote node AWG is having the frequency spacing that is 200 gigahertz. Okay, but now if you just observe this, it is the 400 gigahertz. Okay, so observe here, it is 200. So when the frequency spacing between two consecutive ports is 400, and if you see the wavelength spacing, that is 193.1, 193.3, then 193.5. So within 400 gigahertz spacing, two consecutive wavelengths may come. Okay, so if the center frequency of this AWG is 193.1 terahertz, then 193.1, 193.3 will come here, 193.57 will come here. So this architecture can transmit the data at 20 Gbps. This ODN can receive 20 Gbps data services. This also 20 Gbps. This 2 Gbps, this 2 Gbps. Okay, so now we are scaling and we are providing higher bandwidths to ODN 1 and 2. Similarly, what else we can do? So if the center frequency is changed to 193.3, okay, then the wavelength allocation will be something like this. So 193.3715, then sorry, 193.3579, 194.13 and 51. Okay, so this port is having 20 Gbps, this 11, this 2 and this 11. Okay, similarly if this is 193.7, then 79135135. Okay, so now this ODN4 is having 20 Gbps. Okay, so this way we can have various combinations. So we can allocate the wavelength dynamically, higher at some particular port, lower at some particular port, depending on the requirement or network condition. Okay, so then there is one another architecture. So let me just have how much time I have. Yeah, okay, so basically is there any architecture that can allow the service provider to deploy the network in a pay as you grow manner? So basically yes, there is one architecture. So let's say we are having 4 modules at the OLT. Each module is having the 4 transmitters, and each are modulated at 10 Gbps. So this, and let's say it is transmitting wavelength lambda 11, lambda 12, lambda 13, lambda 14, and so on. Okay, for this lambda 41, lambda 42, and so on. Okay, and there is one switch. Okay, so let's say we are deploying some network in the initial phase. Okay, so then is there any way that only module 1 can serve all the users available or all the optical networking units available in the network? Yes, so this architecture can do that. Okay, so let's say initially this module 1 is on or it is installed, and these module 2, 3, 4 are not available initially. These are installed later on whenever the bandwidth requirement or the net traffic and the number of users are increasing. Okay, so that's why it is called as the pay as you grow deployment. So it is transmitting 4 wavelengths lambda 11, 12, 13, 14. So these are coming here. Okay, so now reaching at this switch. So the phase shift of this switch is 180. So whenever the phase shift of this switch is 180, it is in the cross condition, cross state. And whenever the phase shift of this switch is 0, then it is in the bar state. Okay, so now these wavelengths are coming in this way and reaching to the port 1. These are the different port. Okay, port 1 of this AWG, 4 cross 4 AWG. So now what will happen? So as 4 wavelengths are coming here, so it will distribute each wavelength to the each port. Okay, so lambda 11 will come here, lambda 12 will come here, lambda 13 will come here, and lambda 14 will come here. So let's say initially the number of users are less. Okay, so only this module can serve all the users. Okay, and let's say as the network is growing, the number of users are increasing, then there is a requirement of more wavelengths that must be transmitted from the central office. So then this module 2 will also on. So it will again transmit 4 wavelengths, that is lambda 21, lambda 22, lambda 23, and lambda 24. So will come here, will come here. So now lambda 21, 22, 23, 24 are coming here. So this AWG will distribute these wavelengths in such a way that lambda 21, 22, 23, and 24. Okay, so now each optical distribution network is receiving 2 wavelengths. And similarly, these wavelengths can be turned on, and let's say when the architecture is fully deployed or fully utilized, then this architecture can provide the 4 wavelengths to each optical distribution network. And let's say at some particular case, the network is not fully utilized. Okay, only module 1 and module 2 are on. And at some particular time instant, let's say this transmitter TRX11 is failed due to some reason, then what we can do? And 2 wavelengths are used or required by this optical distribution network. Okay, then definitely we can turn on this TRX33 of this module 3, that is lambda 33. So as you can clearly see here, lambda 11, lambda 24, lambda 33, and lambda 42 are coming. Okay, so this architecture is having very good reliability. Okay, so if it is underutilized, only 1 wavelength required, then this architecture is having 300% reliability, as other 3 wavelengths can be transmitted at any time. And when the architecture is fully operational, that is all 4 wavelengths are used, then definitely we can say we are not having additional wavelength to provide the reliability. So this is having somewhat limited reliability. Okay, and is there any way that we can transmit the much higher data rates or more wavelengths to some particular optical distribution network? Yes, it can be possible. So if you just observe this, so now the phase shift of this switch is 0. So now the connection will be something like this bar. Okay, so lambda 11, 12, 13, 14 are coming here. So now it is transmitted at this port. So directly these are reaching to this optical distribution network, not going through this AWG. Okay, while other three modules are transmitting wavelengths which are going through this AWG. Okay, so four wavelengths from this module 1 is coming to this optical distribution network 1, and then three other wavelengths that are coming from each module, that is 2 4 from here, 3 3 from here, and this 4 2 from here. Okay, so now optical distribution network 1 can have the data rate or bandwidth up to 70 Gbps at the cost of the bandwidth or the wavelength at other distribution network. Definitely the number of wavelengths are fixed, that is 16. Okay, similarly at some particular time instant, let's say this ODN3 require higher data rates, then definitely we can shift the phase of this switch to 0. So then it will have more number of wavelengths and so on. So depending on whether this phase is 0 or 180. Okay, yeah. So now let me come to the last part, that is the latency awareness. Yeah, so I have time and I'll try to finish it in the within given time. So basically what is happening when one user want to communicate to the another user? Okay, so conventionally, let's say this ONU want to communicate with this ONU. Okay, so conventionally what happens? It transmits the data in the upstream direction. Okay, and then this data reaches to this central office or OLT, and then here again it is reprocessed, remodulated, retransmitted, and then in this downstream direction, and then reaches to the other users. Okay, so in this case basically two things are there. So one, the data has to be transmitted twice, that is one for the upstream direction and another for the another for the downstream direction. Okay, so it will consume, it requires twice of the energy. It consumes the downstream bandwidth as well as the upstream bandwidth. Okay, and when the signal is transmitting through this optical fiber, then definitely there must be the latency. The signal will travel in this direction and in this direction, so twice of the distance. Okay, so we can easily calculate the latency of the fiber, that is by the speed, effective speed. Okay, so I'm not going in that detail. So is there any way that the signal can be directly transmitted from one ONU to another ONU without transmitting the signal to the OLT? That is called as the direct inter-ONU communication. Okay, so can the ONUs communicate directly with each other without intervening this OLT? So that is, the signal needs to be transmitted only at this one wavelength, no requirement for the upstream or downstream. Okay, so basically for this, and yes, earlier one architecture is available. So this architecture is basically having the direct inter-ONU capability. Okay, so let me just explain what is happening here. So there is one fiber bracketting. FBG is a component. Let me just give you some idea. So it is nothing but the perturbations in the fiber, that is the changes in the refractive index periodically. Okay, so whenever there is some signal, so this FBG is having some Bragg wavelength lambda v, that is to effective delta. Okay, so this n effective is the effective refractive index, and this delta is the grating period. Okay, so whenever the wavelength that is equivalent to lambda v is coming here, then it is reflected back and all the wavelengths are transmitted. Okay, so let's say it is the input port and it is the output port. So what will come, what will happen? So if I'm transmitting, let's say lambda v, that is 193.1 terahertz. Okay, and if I'm transmitting the signal, let's say 193.0, 193.1, 193.2. terahertz. Okay, these signals are coming here. So there is one wavelength that is 193.1 terahertz. It is reflected, and other two wavelengths that is 193.0 and 193.2 terahertz will be transmitted. Okay, so it works as a very good optical filter. Okay, so when ONU is transmitting some data that is equivalent on the wavelength which is equivalent to the Bragg wavelength of this FBG, then this signal will come here and then it will be again reflected here. So now it is transmitted here. Okay, so no need to transmit the signal in this part. Okay, so in this way the ONUs can communicate directly. Okay, but there is one problem. Let's say there are 32 users. Okay, so when the data is transmitting here, so this is also of 1 cross 32. Okay, and the losses are 3.5 log of 2n. N is the number of ports. Okay, so for upstream direction and for downstream direction, so there are much insertion losses for this particular case. And let's say if the data is intended only for ONU2 or some particular ONU, then also we must have the similar kind of losses as the wavelengths need to be transmitted from this 1 cross 32 to splitter twice. Okay, so what can be done for this? So this remote node can be splitted into two remote nodes. So again, remote node 1 and remote node 2, and let's say 32 users are having small groups. Okay, so let me just come here. Yeah, so let's say here 1 cross 4, 1 cross 4, so total number of users are 16 only. Okay, so for the downstream transmission, and let's say this FBG is having the Bragg wavelength that is lambda 9, and this FBG is having the Bragg wavelength that is lambda 5. Okay, so we are transmitting the data at lambda 1 2 3 4, so it will go here in the downstream direction, then will go here. Okay, as the Bragg wavelength of these FBGs are different, that is lambda 5 or lambda 9, but not lambda 1 2 3 4, so these signals will be reaching to the ONU. So for downstream transmission there is no problem, and for upstream transmission what happens? So the data can be transmitted at lambda 5, lambda 9 and lambda 8. So let's say the data is transmitted at lambda 10, so lambda 10 will come here. So as it is having lambda 5, so we'll pass lambda 10 here, so lambda 10. Okay, so it is the upstream transmission. And what happens if the data is transmitted at lambda 5, that is only within this group? Okay, so if we are transmitting the data at lambda 5, it will come here, and then as the Bragg wavelength of this FBG is lambda 5, so it will be reflected back and then can be transmitted to this group only. Okay, so now earlier the insertion losses are high due to the higher splitting port of this AWG, but now it is splitted in two parts, so this 1 cross m and 1 cross n, so only this small port splitter is there, so the losses will be somewhat smaller. Okay, and is there any way that we can transmit the data to all the users available in the network? So that is yes, at lambda 9, so lambda 9 is transmitted, so lambda 9 will go here and will come here. Okay, then will go in this way and then reaching to this FBG, and as this FBG is having lambda 9, so will come back and then again it is available to all the users. Okay, so lambda 9 is also there. So in this way, whenever there is a requirement of overall broadcasting, then the data inter-ONU data is transmitted at lambda 9. If there is a requirement of subgroup broadcasting, that is the broadcasting within a particular group, then the data is transmitted at lambda 5. So this inter-ONU transmission is possible. Okay, so as you can see, the major latency is occurring in this optical fiber, and the signal is not transmitting to this optical fiber, and the data is not reaching here. It needs to be reprocessed, remodulated and retransmitted. So the cost and energy consumption to transmit this data again in the downstream direction is also reduced. Okay, so I'm just skipping this. Yes, and is this inter-venue communication also possible for WDM network? Yes. So basically, this is the WDM architecture. So in which 8 wavelengths 193.1 terahertz to 193.8 are transmitted from the central office, and then here 1 cross 8 AWG. So each port will have a dedicated wavelength. Okay, and each one you can receive it. So this is the normal downstream transmission. And for the inter-venue communication, basically what is happening, and for upstream direction 193.7, 193.8 up to 193.4 wavelength can be transmitted, and there is 150 gigahertz interleaver. Okay, so the role of this interleaver is to transmit or the filter out the odd and even multiple of 50 gigahertz wavelength. Okay, so all the even multiple of wavelengths will go in this direction, odd multiple will go in this direction. Okay, so now for the inter-venue, this wavelength is transmitted at 195.45 terahertz. Let's say it is tuned by 50 gigahertz. Okay, so as it is the odd multiple of 50 gigahertz, so this wavelength will go here and will come here. Okay, now due to this power splitter, so each of the port will have this 193.45 terahertz wavelength. Okay, so now there is the inter-venue communication also. Okay, and there is one another architecture basically that can also have the broadcasting capability in the downstream direction. Okay, so let's say we want to broadcast the data, so that is transmitted at lambda BD, that is lambda broadcasted in the downstream direction. Okay, so for this there is another multiplexer, that is CWDM. So basically at this point DWDM is happening, and at this point CWDM is happening. Okay, so this lambda BD is multiplexed by this CWDM, and then again there is another CWDM, the multiplexer. So this lambda DB will come here and will come here. So now from here it can be broadcasted to all the available users in the network. Okay, so and this architecture is also supporting the direct inter-venue communication, as I've already discussed. Yeah, so and this architecture, yeah, by using this architecture we can reduce the much of the latency that is occurring in the fiber. Okay, so if we are talking the conventional case, then what is happening in the conventional case? Let's say ONUX or ONU1. ONU1 is transmitting the data first to the OLT, and then from OLT to the ONUY, that is the destined ONU for which we want to transmit the data. Okay, and then minus this direct inter-ONU communication technology, the latency occurring in the direct. So from ONU1 to ONU2, let's say. Okay, so you can imagine up to 90% of the latency can be saved. That is basically the latency occurring due to the optical fiber, and the data is not transmitted in the optical fiber, and most of the latency is occurring in the optical fiber. Okay, so we can send definitely, as the data is not remodulated, retransmitted again at this central office, so 60 to 70% of the energy can also be energy consumption can also be reduced. Okay, so I think with this I'm ending my presentation, and I'm open for the questions. So in this way I have just given you some idea about the flexible network, and in this flexible means how we can design or we can have the reliability, resiliency, energy efficiency, bandwidth scalability or bandwidth efficiency, and you can say the latency awareness in the optical networks. Okay, so thank you all. Yes, I'm open for the questions. Yeah, and I'm ended on the right time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Amit. Okay, so that's a wonderful presentation, I believe, where you have actually talked much more on this PON architecture, the advanced one, and perhaps any questions from the participants like to ask more about the design architecture. And okay, while waiting for the questions, I think I have one question about this, Dr. Amit. Actually, you have proposed on the hybrid of TDM WDM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you ensure the sustainability of this design when it is going to extend to move from 1 gig to the 10 gig later on, if it's
So
required or there is a demand on that?
yeah, so basically for this, we need to change the structure at this central office. Okay, so my slides are visible.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so basically initially at the central office, let's say the bandwidth requirement or the data transmission is required only at 1 Gbps or 2.5 Gbps. Then we are modulating the data at 2.5 Gbps. And later on, as the network grows, the bandwidth demand grows, then we can definitely modulate the data at 10 Gbps or higher Gbps. So we need to do something, or we need to change something on this central office. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, so it means there is a need to change the whole architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the physical facility also need to be
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
changed. Mm,
yes.
okay, all right. About the one stage and the two stage just now on the OLT, right?
One stage and two stage.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes,
so
so
how?
basic. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
One stage to the two stage point thing. That
this
part.
one.
Almost to the end, I think. Yeah. Uh, yeah, there's one stage. Just you have mentioned
It
about
is
the one stage.
two stage. It is two
Mm,
stage. So this
yeah.
remote node basically, what we
Mm,
are doing. Let's say earlier we are having 1 cross 32 power splitter. Let's say.
mhm.
Okay, my pen is basically doing some problem. I don't know. Okay, and now what we can do, so we can split it into the m and n, and in such a way that let's say it is 4 and it is 8. Okay, so the number of users will remain same, 4 cross 8. So how I will design, so earlier it is designed in such a way that 1 to up to 32. Okay, now what I am doing now, so I'm here using this 1 cross 4, so that is 4, and then it is 1 cross 8. Okay, so 1 to 8, then 9 to 16, and so on, then up to 32. Okay, so as this single power splitter is creating much more insertion losses, and as you know, the insertion loss are there, the signal to noise ratio will degrade, and the channel capacity will also degrade. Okay, and if I'm just doing two remote nodes, okay, that is 1 cross m and 1 cross n, the number of users available in the network will remain same. Okay, but the insertion loss at this remote node are reduced, as here I'm using now the WDM PON technology, and here I'm using the TDM PON technology. Okay, and if I just see, as the loss for this WDM PON technology is somewhat better. Okay, so you are asking this thing or something else?
Okay, so there's actually no question more from me, no more question from me, and I think yeah, the rest also have no questions. Maybe later, if they want to contact you, perhaps
So yeah, so
yeah, you
let
can
me just,
write in the chat box on your contact. Okay.
yeah, so this is my mail ID, amitgarg.ec@iitkota.ac.in. So whenever you have some questions or doubts, you can always mail me, and I will be happy to answer your queries. Okay, and if someone of you also want to have some collaborations, then also I will be happy. It will
Yeah,
be my
that's
great
great,
pleasure.
Doctor. Okay, that's very great. Okay, thank you very much again, Dr. Amit. Give applause, okay, to Dr. Amit for the
Okay,
great talk just now. I think that's actually towards the end of our talk today, our lecture today, where we have seen the proposal of this very good discussion on how we can actually reduce the latency, okay, reduce the energy consumption and etc. So thank you very much again. And actually, I also have typed the link for the coming international conference on photonics organized by the IEEE Photonics Society Malaysia. Perhaps Dr. Amin also and the students, okay, and also the colleagues from India can have some papers here, okay, to be submitted, and also from the rest, from the participants, and we can perhaps see you all again, okay, for the another session for the photonics lecture series, okay. Dr. Nadia just display the website of the IEEE 9th International Conference on Photonics. Will be great, okay, for all of you to join, okay, the conference.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And Dr. Nadia, one my request, can you please share the conference details to my mail ID? I'll just spread it in my network, and if
Okay,
something else required from my side, then I will be happy.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Amin.
Thank you,
Okay,
Dr. Amit. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if there is any additional add, Dr. Nadia, from the Secretariat of the IEEE, from the Photonics Society.
No, just thank you to Dr. Mahfuza for moderating this talk, and thank you to Dr. Amit for accepting this invite from all the way from India. So thank you so much. Despite the time difference, you made it and made a great session. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe you can have
and
an session.
I hope your participants will get benefited from my talk. I tried my best to, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
did. Thank you.
All right. So thank you all, everyone. So stay safe, and shall we see you again after this? Okay. Assalamualaikum and bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.